Good afternoon, everyone. I am David Livingston, president of LUCE University. And this week, unfortunately, Dr. Sant is away, so he won't be joining us. It has been an incredibly busy week this week. And actually, there's a ton more to come, which I'll talk about in a little bit. We had 45 families. We talked about this last week on campus for the Si Se Puede event. Si Se Puede is an event we host every year that brings Latinx students from around the Chicagoland area to campus to do really learn about kind of a toolkit for college success, how to apply. So it's seniors who are looking at applying to college. There are sessions that are designed around what their educational goals might be. We had our nursing faculty, chemistry, criminal justice. We had our financial aid office come in and talk about college affordability, how to fill out a FAFSA. All of that stuff. It was a great event. We had a lot of students from many different high schools around the Chicagoland area. This Saturday, we're really excited, and I say this to all of you to remind you that if you have a cousin or a friend, you can still, probably you could get in just under the wire. We have 225 families coming to campus this weekend on Saturday to do our visit day. So these are mostly seniors with some juniors in high school that'll be coming to campus. Always want to remind people as we're starting this out that if you have a question, whether now or when our guests are on, you can go to askus@lusu.edu, send in a question, and we'll ask our guests those questions, or I'll try to answer it if it's a general question. So congratulations to Dr. Jason Kelleher, professor of chemistry, who took several LUCE chemistry students to present their research during a poster session at the 242nd Electrochemical Society meeting in Atlanta. All told, Dr. Kelleher and his students were responsible for 8 presentations at the conference. Also, congratulations to Dr. Allison Richardson. She took several students in occupational therapy to present their research at the poster session, excuse me, at the Illinois Occupational Therapy Association annual conference this month in Naperville. Dr. Richardson and her students were responsible for 4 papers at the conference. Also, a congratulations to Dr. Michelle Kremer from our nursing program, Dr. Leslie Page, who's chair of organizational leadership, and Dr. George Klemek, professor of business administration, who have teamed up to publish and share their insights on leadership role in organizational energy. Their presentation, Post-Traumatic Growth in Organizational Leaderships, Role in Deploying Organizational Energy Beyond Survival, was presented at the September Illinois Organization of Nursing Leaders Annual Conference in Oak Brook. And I guess I should read that paper. I mean, post-traumatic COVID crisis, how to lead, I think I need some help with that. But I will try to find a copy of that paper, but congratulations to all 3 of them. And really exciting actually to see multiple faculty working together across disciplines. I think it's a really great thing. Also, congratulations to Dr. Dennis Kremen, who I'm going to introduce in just a little bit, professor of history, who was featured with several students in a recent Times Weekly article featuring their work on reclaiming the narrative, restoring Black voices to the story of Joliet, a research project funded by the Gaylord and Dorothy Donnelly Foundation. The LUCE University team was working with partners at Second Baptist Church, the Mount Zion Baptist Church, Warren Sharp Community Center, and the National Hookup for Black Women, the Joliet chapter of that group, to capture and record and digitize and archive the stories of individuals and the community around this set of issues from the Joliet area. Okay, so normally, if Chris was here, I would hand it off to him or he would hand it off to me, but I'm gonna switch gears and go into athletics. We have a slide about what's coming up this week. Women's soccer is playing against Missouri St. Louis at 5 o'clock this weekend. Sunday afternoon against Maryville. Men's soccer Friday 7:30 against Missouri S&T, and then Sunday at 2:30 against Maryville. Women's volleyball, and I will say that the soccer season is closing out. Last weekend we honored our seniors. Unfortunately, I was out of town, so I wasn't able to go, but the men won, women lost in a real nail-biter. But the season is coming to an end. As you start putting on your winter clothes, you should know that fall sports will begin to wrap up. So If you haven't been out to see the soccer team, this weekend is going to be 70 degrees. You should really get out and see the soccer team. Women's volleyball Friday night are playing against Rockhurst, 6 p.m. And then Saturday at 2 p.m. against Southwest Baptist. Soccer is also beginning to wrap up. And then the men's and women's cross-country team Saturday will be at 8 a.m. at the UA Chargers Invite in Huntsville, Alabama. So they'll be headed south where I'm sure it will be much warmer, even though it's going to be 70 here. A couple other upcoming events. There's a slide here on a few things that are coming up. October 3rd through the 23rd, William Blake, and I'm looking forward to going over to this show tonight. Distant Drum. William Blake is an artist who, and there's a gallery reception tonight from 7 to 9. I've been over to see it, but I'm going to try to sneak in before I go to the Grow lecture, which I'm going to talk about in a second. He became fascinated with reenactments, especially Civil War reenactments. And so then he began to ask some of these reenactors to come into his studio and pose for him, and he did these paintings. So if you haven't been over there, it's really worth seeing, because some of them are pretty gruesome, like, you know, kind of reenactments of, you know, wounded soldiers and having to deal with amputations and stuff like that. But it'll be a great show tonight. If you're interested in art, definitely go over to that show. The artist will be there and talking about his work. Tonight, we also have the annual Peace Teach-In. It's in full swing, so there's events going on throughout the day today. And tonight, the Grow Memorial Lecture, Valerie Kaur. I'm about halfway through her book. If you haven't read it, I highly recommend it. She's a Sikh, meaning the Sikh religion from Southeast Asia, from India. Woman who has really, she's gone through so much in her life, but she's going to be speaking tonight on her book and on her work, on really trying to find ways of pulling people together who have gone through really both traumatic things, but also issues around race. Also, this week, we have the event that is connected to our Legacies of American Slavery grant that we received, which is the 21st and the 22nd. Confines of Place, the intersection of race, place, migration, and mass incarceration. That starts tomorrow. You can still register, but you should register for this event. LUCE was chosen to examine the legacies of American slavery with this theme of race, place, and migration, as well as mass incarceration. They'll be convening activists, artists, practitioners, scholars, students, formerly incarcerated members of our community in terms of the Joliet and the Chicago area, and people directly impacted by incarceration to illuminate the lived experience, share their research, their visual art, their music, all around this issue of mass incarceration, as well as wellness and healing and how those relate to seeking justice. Tomorrow night, the keynote address is being offered by Reuben Jonathan Miller, who was just announced last week as a MacArthur Award winner. So that is, for those of you that don't know, we used to call them the Genius Awards, but they're really high-end achievements. So we're really excited to have Dr. Miller join us on campus. That'll be at 5:30 p.m. in the university dining room, and everyone is welcome. This weekend and next weekend, we have the Roustabout that's going on, which is the theater production that is happening in the Philip Lynch Theater, written by Jay Torrance and directed by Professor Kevin Trudeau. Performances will be the 21st through the 23rd and the 27th through the 30th in Philip Lynch Theater. Also next week, we have the Speece Lecture Series, which is the specific lecture next week is going to be done by Sherilyn Muir. She is speaking on business and ethics. It should be a great event. Okay, so now I want to remind you as we turn over to our guests, and we have 3 guests today that I'm really excited to introduce. But just a reminder that you can go to askus@lusu.edu if you have any questions at all. So I'm really pleased to introduce guests that are all connected to our study abroad, travel study, and LUCE's Rome program. So with me today is Dr. Dennis Kremen. I just talked about him. He's a professor of history at LUCE University. Currently serves as the academic director of our Rome program, the LUCE program. In addition to all of his academic duties in Rome, he will be teaching an interdisciplinary seminar and courses in history while he's over there this spring. So welcome, Dr. Kremen. Mr. Chris Swanson is also with us. He's the director of study abroad. Been involved in international education for over 20 years. He coordinates all the study abroad and travel study programs at LUCE University, including the Rome program at LUCE, which is our center in Rome. And then I'm really excited, not that I'm less excited about our two, but I'm really excited. I always love when we have students on our show. So Miss Reyna Cortez is currently a second-year student in forensic criminal investigation. She participated in the Rome program last year in the spring of 22. I guess it's still this year, but for me academically, last year. And she did that as a first-year student. She's a sophomore this year. So I'm going to start by turning to you if I can, Chris. So again, welcome all three of you. Thank you so much for joining me on the show today. Thank you. So Chris, you've been involved in study abroad, and you know, because we've had lots of conversation, that I both did study abroad as a student, and I also did study abroad like Dr. Kremen is doing, where I was a teacher and took students abroad for, 7 or 8 years. We went to Europe. But I went to South America when I studied abroad. So maybe you could give me maybe the broad strokes of what we do for students or what opportunities are available to students. And then we'll turn to the Rome program. But if we could just start in general with, I'm a student here, or I'm a prospective student. I'm coming in this weekend. I'm a parent, and I'm interested in what's going on at LUCE. Tell us a little bit about what the opportunities are.
Sure thing. There's a lot of different opportunities here at LUCE. Students have the opportunity to go on basically 3 different kinds of programs, kind of general groups. But they can actually do these programs during the entire time that they're here in their academic plan. They can go during their first year, second year, third year, early part of their senior year if they work their academic plan and really work it with their major advisor. Mm-hmm. So 3 different types that we have. When most people think of study abroad, they think of our semester programs. Mm-hmm. And we've got plenty of those. We've got over 20 different programs going all over the world. East Asia, Korea, Japan, China. We've got Australia. We've got good portions of Western Europe, and then also Latin America as well. Mexico, Costa Rica, just lots of opportunities for you to go study.
Amazing all the places that people can go.
Definitely so, and so they can actually go study a language if they want to, mm-hmm. But I don't expect all of our students to have that language background. Sure. So we have a wide variety of programs where all the coursework is in English, and then we also have ones where it's kind of a blended, where they do intensive language, but then they also do coursework in English as well.
So can I just ask a little bit of a follow-up on that? So if somebody's thinking about this, could you just lay out a little bit, because you started doing that with the language requirements, but so there are students, and you mentioned this, who I guess the most bold way to study abroad from my point of view is to go for a year to another university in another language, take classes at that university. So we have that opportunity, right? We do. Somebody could go to Spain or Costa Rica or any number of places. Not sure. It's a limited number of places, but they could go somewhere and study for a semester or a whole year at another university, transfer those courses
and
back.
Do coursework in their major, their minor, general education requirements, electives. It really just depends on where they want to go and what they want to do.
And then we have, as you said, this travel study. Tend to be shorter, done by our own faculty. So now they're not having to, I know we've had students that have, gone to many places around the world, and they're taking classes and they don't even know these professors. Like, they're walking into a university in Barcelona and they're just having to register like you'd register here. But if they do travel study, shorter period of time, and maybe with a faculty they already know, they've taken a gen ed class with, or it's in their major. Talk a little bit about that. And I know, I just want to get a shout out. We're sitting in the studio here. John Kilpatrick has a travel study that he does. Yes?
Yes, he does.
Yeah. So, to Nashville, and he's always behind the scenes making me look way better than I should. But but many of our faculty have these shorter term opportunities.
That's correct. Those vary from year to year, depending on faculty interest and where they want to go in terms of the coursework that they're offering as well. But really, these are very short, intense programs that we have that go anywhere from 10 days to 2 weeks is kind of average. The travel's during break times, so it's actually a very good opportunity for some of our students who may have a very, very tight curriculum in terms of their major. And they can take care of courses towards possibly their minor or their major. Usually it's a general education type of course, but it really depends on the program. They will do, basically the students will take a course during the semester, and it won't meet as many times as a normal class, but they'll basically, and a lot of our programs actually go during May, right after finals. So students,
they're completing. I mean, one way to think
Exactly.
about it is they do 80% of the coursework during the semester, and 20% of the coursework they're going to Haiti, or they're going to Boston, or they're going to
That's right.
London.
Yep,
just
so they'll
talk,
do that preparatory work on campus,
Right.
and then basically that whole group of students will go with the professor someplace else to look at that subject intensively. And it could be someplace in the US or overseas.
Yeah, so Chris, tell me about the one, because you were talking to Reyna about the forensics one. Where do
Right.
they go?
Oh, yeah.
They actually go to Knoxville, Tennessee, of all places.
What would be in Knoxville, Tennessee?
It's actually our Human ID in Criminal Investigations program. It's run by Cindy Masisha and Lynn Tovar. And they go to what's nicknamed as the Body Farm. They actually do a week-long intensive training. The Body Farm is basically for forensic science, learning, and basically they learn how bodies decompose. They do these training programs for law enforcement officers.
So the University of
FBI.
Tennessee buries bodies and then
Yes.
knows where these varying degrees, like this has been in the ground for a month, 6 months,
That's correct.
a year. Go dig
So all
this
those
up.
things that you see on
We-
CSI and so forth in the TV shows was actually pioneered in
Not
reality.
my thing, but
Exactly.
maybe
Yep.
Reyna's into that. Not
Amazing.
not my,
Amazing.
It is. It's
we're
incredible.
We're one of only 4 universities in the country who are actually able to go and do that training program. And it's a fantastic opportunity for our students. I'm with you. I would not go on that program
it's just not
myself,
my,
but I'm very happy to actually be able to provide and help coordinate this opportunity for the students
Yeah,
and help
that's
the
awesome.
faculty bring these opportunities to the students as well.
So one of the things we're really excited about is, in addition to all these other universities around the globe that we have relationships with, and you've developed over, your long tenure at LUCE, we also developed a number of years ago a program specifically in Rome. It takes advantage of the Generalate in Rome. So Dennis, you've been leading this program for a couple years. Dr. Kremen has, with Joanne Kuttner. So want to give a shout out to Joanne. Tell me a little bit about, maybe start with, I use the word Generalate, but maybe you could start with, where is it, right? What is the place like? And then what are the opportunities that students have in this program?
Sure. It's a really exciting program that takes advantage of our connection to the Lasallian Christian Brothers. And we're at what we can call the Generalate or the Mother House. And the students stay there for just under 3 months, so the spring semester. And you have meals covered there, we have classrooms, and you largely enroll in general education courses. For example, I'll be teaching a course interdisciplinary with Claire Rothschild called Christians as the Romans Saw Them. So we'll be looking at Christianity, but through the lens of how Romans looked at them. It's a dynamic program where we use Rome as a classroom. So we'll be going to the Colosseum, St. Peter's Basilica, and other sites while we're there.
So Reyna, I introduced you once, but let me turn to you and say, how is the general? Let's start with just the physical, like how was it being in Rome? How was it being in the Generalate? How was it being a student in functionally a dorm, but transported from Romeoville to Rome? Tell me a little bit about that part of it.
Okay, well, in terms of the Generalate, it was big. Like the place was having to walk from like the entrance all the way up to your room, probably a 10-minute walk. Okay. So it was a really nice big facility. They have a church there. I know that the brothers live on like the other side, so we get to learn from them too. They have a cafeteria, a restaurant, a lot of classrooms, and then our dorms were, or like our rooms were on top of like our classrooms,
Yeah.
like a level above.
Right. So you could kind of, so to speak, because I've been there many times, roll out of bed and just go down to the class.
I might have done that every time.
But
Yeah.
you don't. But again, and then tell me a little sense of how. What did it take for you to begin to feel comfortable in Rome? Right. So now you're right. You get off the plane. Right. Some people. Had you ever been to Europe before?
No, that was my first time.
Had you ever been out of the United States?
I have.
Okay. So, but first time to Europe. So you get on this plane. You get off the plane. Dennis and Joanne are like, corralling these students over to the general lit. As you say, you come in, you get your key, 10-minute walk to get to your room. But now we're in week 1, 2, 3, and you're starting to explore Rome. When did you start feeling comfortable with Rome as a kind of classroom, but also your new home? Like, how long did it take for you to get to know where the best gelato was, for instance?
Well, right off the bat, actually, Chris and Dennis went through everything with us. They walked us around the neighborhood, got us familiar with things, and then actually the first day we went to this place called Gelati, and Dr. Kremen told us this is the best place to get gelato. And I mean, I knew the first day, but I knew the first day where to get the best.
Can you, for people on our audience, Reyna, who don't know what gelato is, and I know it's become much more popular in the United States, but I guess I have 2 questions. What is gelato? And if you've had gelato in the United States, and I know you've had it in Rome, is there a difference? Should I go to Rome to eat some gelato?
Definitely.
Okay.
There is a difference. People, the way that they make gelato here compared to over there, you could just tell that there's a lot more work and more effort put into the gelato. And I wouldn't really have known that if I didn't go. But I can see the difference between the food now.
Yeah.
I'll go to a restaurant and I'll get something Italian. I'm like, okay, this is great, but it's not authentic.
I always find that it's so disappointing to come back to the United States after you're in Italy, because it's not a huge comparison between those two.
Can I jump
Yeah,
in really quick?
please. I'd love.
Reyna, how do we travel around when we're in Rome?
A lot by foot, so you got to get good shoes, and then train. So what was it called? The metro. The metro, and then we would also take these fast speed rail trains as well to go a little bit farther or up in Italy. So mostly trains, but a lot by foot.
Yeah. So tell I'd love to hear Dennis and Reyna maybe talk a little back and forth. You used the phrase, Dennis, that Rome is our classroom. So let's start with Rome, and because I want to go to the broader European context, but let's start with Rome. What does it mean to say that? For, again, we have a lot of first-generation families. We have a lot of students who their parent can't say to them, which I said to my kids, when I was a senior and I studied in South America, this was an amazing experience for me, and they've heard all my stories. But many people, the parents and the student, don't know what that means to say Rome is my classroom. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so Reyna, I'm going to call up your mind for a second. So in one of our classes, we went all the way over to San Agnese fuori le mura. So St. Agnes is outside the walls. And while we were there, we went into an excavation, right, a catacomb.
Yeah.
And so we had a chapter, I think chapter 2 or 3 of our text for the Christians course focused on that. And so what was it like to use and actually go into the catacombs?
When we read the book, I didn't really know what a catacomb was or really picture it in my head. So when we actually were there and we went through this tour, I couldn't believe how real it was. To see these were empty tombs where people actually buried people. It was crazy to see that as well. And I think that you mentioned too that some families can't really say to their children that they've gone away. And I think I was maybe one of the first people in my family to go away. So it was a big deal for my family to send me off.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So being able to be
Scary
around,
for your mom and dad.
Scary for sure, but they were checking up on me, and they really had trust in the program too.
So I want to pick up on this. We're going to come back to the Rome as a classroom, but I think that you've raised such an important issue, Reyna. I want to both hear like a little bit more about that challenge for kind of your parents and you, the kind of, because I think a lot of people that are watching us, it's the struggle through, I think I want to do this, right? So maybe you could talk through this process, right?
Yeah.
I think I want to do this, get the application, all right, I'm going to fill out the application. Now, there's a cost to this, and my parents are scared, and I don't know if I should do this. How did you get from this sounds fun to I'm actually getting on the plane with your family and all of that you're raising?
So at first, I actually, Mr. Swanson came into my Cornerstone class and was talking about Rome as like an opportunity.
Right.
And I was like, that'd be so cool to do, but I'm like, I'm a freshman. I don't know if they would let me.
Right.
I applied anyway. I talked to my parents. I was like, what do you guys think about me going to Rome? And at first they were like, okay, how much is it gonna be? Who are you gonna go with? Like, what are you doing over there? I said, it's gonna be with the school. I talked to Mr. Swanson then afterwards and asked him how much the cost was gonna be. And it's just tuition and then any other expenses that you like have to make. So that was one of the biggest points for me because my parents, I don't think that they would want to pay like so much money for me to be away from them.
Yes.
And like a flight and then food. So being able to like take this opportunity like where you're not even paying that much to go, that was like for me like the deal breaker.
Yeah, that's
or like
great.
not the deal breaker, but
Yeah.
like
Okay,
the
so
main
now, and again, we're still going to come back to this, but now I want to go to Dr. Kremen and I have both, and the three of us have been on panels before and talk. So we do talk about this, but I'm going to put a word in your mouth somewhat, but you can push back against it. So it feels like study abroad really is transformational, right? It changes your perspective on so many things. You grow up in certain ways, you know. So tell me a little bit about, I don't know, maybe it's about even how you talked to your parents about how it was going, right? And when you came back, like, are you a different woman today than you were a year ago because you went to Rome?
I definitely do think I changed. And it might have even been like slight changes, but I see it today where I'm like, okay, I'm kind of scared to go by myself over here. And when I was in Rome, I didn't, like, I wasn't really scared. I would go and like adventure wherever. So now I feel like a little bit more freedom. Also, my parents kind of like see that I grew up a little bit more. And they see that like whatever I did in Rome, I can do back home too.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I find that one of the things I find when I talk to students, and it certainly was true for myself, which was, you know, eons ago when I was studying abroad as a 20-year-old, public transportation. Now, you know, because they live in Chicago, many of our students are very familiar, but when you talked about the trains, when you're on all those trains, it's like you learn so much so that if you were to go to New York City or, you know, it wouldn't seem crazy to you anymore because you know how to do it in another language.
In another language,
Yeah.
in a different country. Yeah, you do see a lot of different things. You do have to know how to handle yourself, keep all your things together too, because there would be pickpocketers as well, or people asking for money. You have to be careful on how you act and like your surroundings as well.
Sure. So we had a question that came in from the audience. So I'm going to ask you this question, Chris, and then we're going to get back to how our classroom has expanded. Can I do this and finish a degree in 4 years?
Yes, you can.
All right. So can you talk a little
simple
bit more
answer,
than
yes,
just
you
the
can.
simple yes? But I know you can. But can you just talk a little bit about like how it's integrated in? We've already talked about how many of the courses fit the gen ed, but you know maybe you could just talk a little bit about when you go into a Cornerstone and somebody raises their hand and says that. Can I go to Rome and still finish my degree in 4 years? Because I don't want to pay for an extra semester.
Yeah, so actually with the Rome program, you can take care of up to 6 different general education requirements while you're on the program. You're directly signed up for those classes. You can see exactly how they're going to fit within your degree works and your academic plan and so forth. So yes, it's easy to do.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that I feel like we always want to say to anybody watching is that there is therefore a way that if you hear about it in Cornerstone, but you're like, I'm not going to do this my first year, save some of your gen eds so that, like talk to your advisor early on, and when they recommend taking your history course, be like, I think I might want to go to Rome my sophomore year. I'll save that. My religion course, I'm going to save that. Whatever.
Right.
So that there's this sense of do the other things that I can't do there, and then those 5 courses, check, 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 check.
Yes,
Right?
no, it's always important to talk with your major advisor just to see how these things will fit, and also your major advisor will be able to look at your academic plan and help you out in terms of maybe moving some of those major requirements to either side of the program and keep you on track.
So we had another question that came in. The question was, do you have to be a specific major? But I'm gonna add a colon or a semicolon onto that. Are there majors that can't study abroad that you've worked with, or that it's harder to study abroad? They have to kind of plan better. Or are there, the question was, do I have to be, are there only 10 majors on campus that can actually do this?
So study abroad in general, any major can do study abroad. For some of our majors are more restrictive. So nursing, for example, has a very, very tight curriculum. But they can go on travel study programs. They can go on summer programs. For some of our STEM majors, for like chemistry, biology, they have sequence courses. So in other words, they have to take one course to take the next course to take the next course. And that usually is during their first 2 years that they're here at LUCE. And junior year is kind of that magic year where you don't have those sequence courses. And so planning early with your major advisor to say, all right, I want to study abroad and I want to go, and you basically map it out for junior year. Exactly.
That's great.
Yes.
So I'm going to go back to the, because I'm going to now expand beyond. We heard about the catacombs, the way it helped Reyna to kind of learn the material in a different way. I just found, just a side on this, I used to do the same thing because I used to teach a history of Christian thought course over Italy, England, and Ireland. Going to the catacombs, I don't know if the ones you saw would have slots for babies, like these small little shelves, not the ones that'll hold a whole, well, they're still a whole body, but, and I was always just struck by that you have these little catacombs for babies. Yeah, it was really a...
And they would count the days, so how many days would actually show up on the cover of it,
Right.
whether it's marble or
Yeah,
terracotta.
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just fascinating. Okay, so now I want to expand to Europe. So I'm going to ask 2 questions. You can answer it in any order. So what were planned trips beyond Rome? And then were there any trips you did that weren't planned by Dr. Kremen and Dr. Kuttner, but you and friends did? So anyway, where do we go beyond, or where do we normally go, or what are the options, or what's a part of the course? Like, am I gonna be able to go see another country besides Italy as a part of the course?
Sure. So this coming year, we plan to go to Florence again. And we had a really great experience at the What Cost of Blood exhibit. Do you remember what that was about? It dealt with Michelangelo.
The 3 Pietas.
3 Pietas.
Yeah.
Really powerful. That was on view there. And then we also go to Assisi. And how would you summarize Assisi for us?
Very hilly, but it's like more like medieval.
Yes.
Definitely more medieval. I loved it though.
Yeah, I love Assisi as well. It's just that walled city nature, like that medieval sense, and the cobblestone, and you do feel like you've gone back in time.
And chasing down St. Francis and St. Clair is just a
Yes.
wonderful experience.
It is.
But turning to that, where else did you travel then?
So me and my friends, for spring break, we decided to go to Barcelona.
Nice.
So we took a little plane and then we were there for about, I think it was 5 or 6 days. And then we came back. But it was a really good experience. We all stayed at an Airbnb together. We split it up. That also makes it a little bit more cheaper, which is
Yes.
nice. And we adventured. We went through Barcelona. We saw the Sagrada Familia. And it was really nice to see that.
Yeah.
People say it's easier to travel once you're in Europe, to travel around Europe. that's definitely true.
Yeah.
And then a few of my friends, I didn't get to go, but they went to Paris as well.
Nice.
So
Yeah, yeah. So those opportunities, I mean, it's interesting to me how you talk about that. So tell me, because my assumption is that your friends, like not all of the people that became your friends were your friends when you got on the plane.
oh, right, no. I mean, I barely knew anybody before we even like got to Rome. I met like one girl on the plane, but like now we're besties.
Yeah. And I love that. So, and here's what I want
Together all the
to.
time.
So,
Yeah.
and I want to kind of emphasize one of the things you said, which is, meaning, I didn't have it all planned out that I was going to Barcelona when I got on the initial plane, because I didn't even know who my friends were going to be.
Yeah.
3 weeks later, all of a sudden, I got spring break approaching in a month, and I'm like, who do I want to go with, and where do we want to go?
Right.
Right? So I think that it also is just you learn so much from that process, right? Because you have to plan the trip.
Right. And then also too, it's just like you're getting out of your comfort zone, and you're not going to grow in like staying like where you are. So I think if you go study abroad, you're getting out of your comfort zone, you're going to grow, you're going to meet new people, you're going to travel,
Yeah.
you're going to do a lot.
That's just really, really great. What are the things that you wished I would have asked you that I haven't asked you? So, like, what do you want to? What's the thing? Maybe, Reyna, I'll start with you. What's the thing that Chris just said he's going into the Cornerstones? You said somebody, he came into your Cornerstone. What's the one like takeaway that you would want to leave with a student who might be toying with this?
If you have an opportunity, like that is so like easy, I would say, I would take it. You never know where your life can be like after you've taken that opportunity. Even like today, I feel like before I even went to Rome, I was a freshman. I didn't really know that many people at LUCE. I didn't know my way around. Now that I've come back, I'm more familiar with more people. I'm familiar with my professors, and I'm like comfortable to be, and I'm like proud to be part of LUCE.
That's great. That's great. So, Chris, what's the question that I should have asked and I didn't, and you wanna talk about?
I think one of the questions is, how do you apply for these programs? Where do you find out more information? Easiest thing to do is actually just to go onto the LUCE website. And you can put in the search bar, study abroad. It's under academics. You can also just do study abroad, lusu.edu/study abroad.
When's the deadline?
And the deadline for the Rome program is November 1st.
November 1st.
Yeah, coming up. And I would say, the easiest thing to do, you can actually apply on the website for the different programs. You can look at all the different programs that we have. And on each of the program pages, there's an Apply Now button for that program. Awesome. And you can put that, click on that Apply Now, put in your My LUCE login information, and you've applied. It's very simple to do, and it's, if you're even just thinking about it initially, not quite sure, maybe you haven't talked with your advisor, you haven't talked with your parents yet, still put your application in. That's the big, important first step, I think.
Sure.
Well, the deadline, and also just, it tells me that, all right, I've taken that first step, I'm interested, and it allows me to kind of follow up and answer any questions that you might have. Reyna actually came into my office quite a bit, she would come and be like, I got questions, and always happy to chat with
and ask a lot of questions. Stop in.
A lot of questions.
Your office
definitely
is?
It's on the third floor of
Third
the
floor of
LRC,
the LRC.
which is in the same building as the library.
Yes. So, and you mentioned this at the beginning because I'd asked you how many applications we have so far for the Rome program. And I think you said almost 40. So I also want to say that to the people watching, because it might be like, well, I don't want to be the only one, right? So there's already 40 people that applied, which doesn't mean 40 people will go. Correct. But it means 40 people have applied. So, now you have your 10 days or so, not quite, to get your application in, and to start asking more follow-up questions of Chris. All right. So what did I forget to ask, Dennis?
I think it's just echoing what Reyna said, which is, be open to this experience. Think about going. Choose teachers at LUCE University for your letters of recommendation. There's 2 of them that will go to them electronically. People who might know you a little bit, and talk to them about that you're really interested in this program and find out more. Chris is a great resource. If you see Reyna on campus, you can say hello. And she'll know if you say buongiorno.
And I just want to, because I think we may begin to get into this situation. So it also is possible that we could hit a max at some point, which means if you don't get in this year, you could get in next year kind of thing, and thinking in that way. The other thing that I guess I want to note is that I've known some people who, and Reyna could become this example, where you end up doing this experience as a first-year student, and then your junior year, you're like, oh, well, now that I've done this, I think I want to go study in Bogota. And the other thing we have is these relationships with the other 64 universities that I mentioned while we were pre-show. So there's opportunities not only to study at some of those universities. So sometimes you can get that comfort level by doing LUCE, and then realize, oh man, there's a world out here. And I've known a lot of students who it is addictive. It's very
We have a
addictive.
student who's already asking about Australia and other places. So going early can be a benefit because you might think about someplace else.
Well, and I would say for the three of us, and Reyna, you'll probably turn into one of these people, it is very addictive. I mean, I think the three of us travel globally on a regular basis. I'm going to France and Spain in November. I've been to South America many times. I love to travel anytime I get an opportunity because I just find it so enriching from a cultural perspective. And I do think we're all lifelong learners. So that opportunity to kind of keep engaging with other people from other cultures is such a rich experience. All right, so thank you to all three of you for being with us today. It's really, this is such an exciting topic. As I wrap up, I just want to say again, all the stuff that I talked about at the beginning, this university is really, we are bubbling over the top of the pot, so to speak, in these next couple of weeks with so many events and opportunities. And I just want to say, as a member of the community, whether you're a staff member, a faculty member, a student, take advantage of these opportunities. We have some amazing lectures from around the country, amazing artists. Our athletes that go to school here are incredible. Please take advantage of all the rich experience that you can outside of your classes and really, enjoy the LUCE experience for all that it is worth. Many blessings to you and your, you and your family. We will be off next week, so I'll see you in a couple weeks, but have a really great weekend.